So it's been some time. It's just been a very busy month. And obviously from the title you kind of know what I'm going to be talking about, but this is not easy to talk about. This is something that's been an issue for about 6 months, and I've been avoiding talking about it because I keep saying it always involves other people's business, so I can't talk about it. But I'm tired of feeling like this channel has to be so censored. And I do understand, I'm dealing with other people's privacy, so I understand that, there is a line. But I just feel like it's caused me to keep so much from this channel and not give it my all when I want to. I genuinely want to give this channel all that I have, and I feel like I haven't been able to do that. I want to really show you what the college experience is like, and this isn't obviously the same for everybody, but this is what my college experience is like, and this is what my day-to-day life is like, and I want to be able to share that, and I don't want to feel like I have to keep hiding it, and I don't want to have to stop making videos, and I want to be able to put out the content that I want. So, here goes. So it mostly started out the summer before the fall semester started. Me and my family, we had screwed something up with the FAFSA. And at the time I had no idea what was wrong. I thought we just turned it in late, and I didn't know what to do. I could have done more. I could have bugged my parents to do their part more. I could have researched more about FAFSA to understand what it was that they have to do. And basically, it wasn't turned in on time, and I thought that if you turned it in late, that was that, and you just couldn't do it. So, I didn't get any government money offered to me. So, it was about right before I was supposed to move in for the fall semester, and keep in mind, I move in about 10 days early for marching band, so the day that the money is actually due, I had already moved in by that point. So, there's a due date, and then there's the extended due date that's the real due date. But I had already missed the actual first due date. I was moving in a few days, and I had no plan of how to pay for it. And my schedule was scheduled to be canceled, which means that in about a week, I was going to lose my classes. It was a few days, I think it was a day or two before, I think it was 2 days. It was about 2 days before I actually moved in. And I was sitting in my living room, and I pretty much was just thinking about what am I supposed to do, how do I figure this out, and I started having a panic attack. And up until that point, I had never had a panic attack before. I didn't really know what it felt like at the time, and for a while, and kind of even now, I don't really like to call it a panic attack, but the farther away I get from it, the more that I can say it was a panic attack. For a while, I just called my freakouts, I would just say I was freaking out or something like that, but basically I would cry and I'd scream, and sometimes I would shake a little bit, and I would get kind of tingly, and it was not a fun time. So I had 2 or 3 of these right before move-in because we didn't really know what to do to keep me in school, and I was afraid. I didn't know what I could do. I still don't. I don't know how I could still be me and not be in school or some kind of degree holder of a sort. But my parents promised me that it was going to get figured out. So I moved in, and I'm still a nervous wreck. And the only person I told about the fact that I might be losing my classes and I don't know what to do was Brendan. He was the only one that I told about what was going on. I really don't like telling people about when this stuff is going on because it's not fun to talk about, and I feel more hopeless when they just look at me with pity. So I just didn't talk about it with anybody but Brendan. I remember it was a Monday morning of band camp, and I was sitting on top of the scaffolding with Brendan, and we were looking over the parking lot, and my mom had managed to get enough money to pay half of my bill, which was enough to keep me in school for the time. And I called the office, and I got my hold lifted, so I wasn't scheduled to have my classes canceled anymore, and I just started tearing up, and then I just started crying. I was so relieved. And I was so grateful to my mom, and it was a lot, and it felt like I could breathe again in a sense, and it felt good. So I started going on with my semester, but something had kind of changed in me. I was a much more nervous and anxious person than I ever was before. Like, I've never been someone who has anxiety. Like, I've always had like a normal amount of stress as like any other person does. But I genuinely became a person with anxiety, and I didn't really know how to deal with it. I was just getting nervous over little tiny things. I was a nervous wreck like all the time. And I couldn't relax, and I couldn't enjoy things as much, and it was not fun. And I did end up telling Roshan about what had happened over the summer, but she was the only one that I had like updated, and like I said, she didn't even know what was going on while it was going on. Now we're at the end of October, and we're coming into, it's about time to register for the next semester's classes. And I still have the other half of my bill that needs to be paid. And I don't know what to do. I had thought that, because we had a plan, me and my mom, and I thought it was going to be settled by the time this date came, but it wasn't, and I don't know why. But basically I started freaking out again. And I didn't tell anyone but Brendan, and I was becoming more distant to all my friends, and I was very distant and cold with them. I basically just wanted to go to class, go to work, and go to my room. I didn't want to be around other people, and I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to try to relax as much as I could, which was not easy. This thing is good. Highly recommend it. It's strawberries, banana, almond milk, and vanilla protein powder. Check it out. So now we're about a week, a little over, maybe like a week and a half away from my registration date. And it was a band day, and it was pretty cold, and it was rainy, and not like pouring down rain, but just like a little bit of rain. And after our rehearsal, where we rehearsed and where we were supposed to get our lunch were like really far away from each other. And I had a ton of stuff to carry because I had all my flags and just all my stuff with me. I stayed late to help clean up everything with the guard, and Brendan usually stays late and helps cleans up other stuff too. My friends who were supposed to give me a ride ended up leaving without me. They literally forgot they forgot about me. And then Brendan ended up leaving with people in his section, so I was just kind of left behind, and I was cold. I really didn't bring a good jacket because I didn't think it was going to be that cold. So I didn't bring a jacket at all. I just had a long sleeve shirt on. So I was freezing, and I was carrying everything, and I was stressed out about everything, and I was just pissed off. I was so mad at my friends. And I called Roshan, and I was like, did you seriously leave? And blah, blah, blah. And she apologized, and I was just kind of like, whatever. And I was still upset, and I was a lot more mad than I needed to be. And even in the moment, like, I knew I was more mad than I should be. And a lot of people came up to me, and they were like, are you doing okay? Like, what's wrong? And I was like, I told them I was like, I shouldn't be this mad. And like, I didn't tell anyone why I was mad, but they all were encouraging. Like, they were all like, well, if you feel a certain way, like, you're validated in that feeling, which was good to hear. But I mean, looking back, it's like, I know I was so mad just because I was so stressed about everything else, and it's not my friends, like, okay, yes, it sucks that they, like, forgot about me, but it's not their fault that I had all that other stress that piled on top of being mad about this. So that's why I was so mad at them, because I was just mad in general and scared and nervous, and it just kind of compiled into being mad at them as well. So Roshan came up and apologized in person, and I still didn't really care. And Roshan's the kind of person where when someone's mad at her, she'll apologize, like if she feels that she needs to, and then she'll give them space for as long as they need. And I'm the kind of person where if I'm actually mad at you, I want to see some kind of gesture to show that you're sorry, if you actually are sorry. So basically, Roshan and I just weren't talking to each other anymore. And it was weird because we lived together, we also sit next to each other in class. And like we were, like it's not like we were arguing. Like we would say hi, but like we weren't talking, we weren't hanging out. After class, normally we would stay and chat for a few minutes, but instead we were just going our separate ways. And it was a weird time. And it was about, I think this went on for about like 5 days. Maybe 3 to 5 days. But we had a color guard meeting. And as I was leaving, one of the girls, and I'm not going to mention the other 2 girls because I don't know if they'd be okay with me mentioning their names. But the other two girls, one of the other two girls came up to me and she was like, hold on, we want to talk to you. And I was like, I don't want to, like, I didn't say this, but in my head I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to deal with this. So Roshan and the other girls start to try to go get the third girl, who is like fighting the entire way. So she comes up to me and she's like, I'm not apologizing to you. And I was like, that's fine. I'm not asking for an apology. Like, I never asked anyone for an apology. So I wasn't upset that she didn't want to apologize. I was just like, I didn't ask you to come here. And she was like, okay, good. And then, I don't know, it was a bit intense because I was actually kind of cornered. Like, I was against a wall, and the three of them kind of, like, surrounded me, and they were like, what's been going on? And, like, it was so intense. Like, it was very intense to just be surrounded and, like, feeling like I couldn't get out of there. And I just broke down into tears, and I told them everything that had happened. And I hate crying in front of people. I try to avoid it as much as I can. And there were people walking, because we were just in a hallway. Like, not only were we in a hallway, but we were in the band hallway right after band practice. So, like, it was a busy hallway. And I was just crying, and I told them everything that happened. And they were really supportive, and they said, like, they told me, like, I should have told them, and they were like, we want to help you. So, I mean, they offered me as much support as they could. And one of them was even, like, she's really good at finances and scholarships and grants and stuff like that, and she was like, I will help you. And they kind of just said, like, don't keep this from us next time and stuff like that. And it was nice and hard all at the same time. By the end of this, I did miss my registration date, but my mom, I believe she got a loan or something, and she was able to help pay for the second half. I don't even know. I can't even say help pay because, like, she did it all on her own. I don't know. It is a very guilty feeling when, like, your parents are mostly your mom, is putting so much into this, and there's just nothing I can do to, like, pay her back. There's nothing I can give her in return. It's just hard. But all of that credit goes to her. I don't want to sit here and be like, she helped me pay. Like, she paid. So she was able to get the second half of my bill figured out, and I was able to register for my classes. I did register late, but I got them all anyway. So now I have my spring classes, and now the problem was keeping them. So my mom wanted me to get my own loan, which makes sense. So I started applying to everywhere that I could, like, find online. So I applied to a bunch of different loans, and I got rejected from all of them because I have no credit. So I needed a cosigner. I didn't really know how to go about finding a cosigner, so I asked my mom, I was like, who should I, like, ask for this? And she told me someone I could ask. And I messaged them, and I was talking to them, and I was like, hey, I need this cosigner, and blah, blah, blah. And they had told me that if I come up with a proposal for how I plan to pay for it, then they will consider cosigning for me. And I can do this whole presentation thing over the winter break. And I was like, okay, cool. So me and my friends got together a couple times, and we figured everything out. We researched loans and picked out the best loan place, and we budgeted all of the money that I make and everything so that I could propose this to this person. And come winter break, I propose it, and they seem to be leaning towards yes, and they say, let me look into this, and I'll get back to you in a couple days. And I was like, okay. So I kind of bug them, like, every day. I'm like, hey, have you looked into it? And eventually, they agree. And they agree to a payment plan that I was not really a big fan of. It was way over the allotted money I had planned for paying for a loan. And by the end of the loan, it was going to end up, like, when I had paid it off in 15 years, it was going to be twice as much as it originally was. So I wasn't a big fan of this payment plan, but this was the only plan that they were willing to sign for. So I was just like, okay, I have to do this. And basically it meant that I was going to have to quit Color Guard. So we had agreed to everything. I signed the contracts with them, and then I was just kind of beaten down. Like, I was so happy that I was going to get to stay. I was like it was definitely, it would have been worth it. But it was still hard. And I messaged my Color Guard director, and I was like, I can't pay for guard anymore. Color guard, our winter guard for this season is $800, and I already didn't know how I was going to pay for it, but our director is very, very, very lenient and very understanding when it comes to when you pay for things. So my plan was to just kind of figure it out as I go along. But with these loan payments, I knew I was not going to be able to come up with $800 anytime within the next year. So I told her that, and she was super supportive. Like, she was willing to work with me, and she was like, we will figure something out. So it was kind of like, okay, maybe I don't have to quit the guard. And it was like, maybe we will figure something out. And I was feeling a little bit more relaxed. I was more stressed about my own personal finances, but I was going to get to stay in school, and I was like, that's what matters. And then the next morning, I wake up to a call from my cosigner, and they called to tell me that they didn't want to cosign anymore and they were backing out. And this happened to be on the exact day that the money was due. So I had no other plan, nothing else I could do. So I got off the phone and I messaged my mom and I was like, I have no plan. And basically, my mom was kind of like, it's time to start planning to leave college, and I was a wreck. I pretty much cried for 12 hours straight. It was horrible. I messaged my color guard director and I was like, actually, I do have to quit. I think I'm leaving Towson. So I quit the color guard, and that was devastating because I love, love, love color guard, and I love performing, and I really, really wanted to be a part of this show, but I was going to leave college, so I couldn't do it. I started messaging my friends and letting them know that I was going to be leaving. I didn't actually tell everybody because I wanted to take it kind of slow, actually. So I told Roshan, who she was pretty upset about it, understandably. And I actually didn't even know this. She did this without telling me, but she came back to me a few days later and she told me that she had been trying to come up with a plan. Like, she even asked her parents to co-sign for me, which I did not ask her to do. But, I mean, she really, of course, wanted me to stay. And I told Aaron and Emily back at home, and let me tell you, these two jumped into action. They were coming up with every single kind of plan from every single angle that they could come up with, whether it had, like, basically zero chance of working or anything. They were trying to come up with anything, and then they were also coming up with, like, 10 different backup plans for me to do if I did have to leave, and they were just really, really supportive through it, and I'm really lucky to have had them to help me through that. And they really did help. Like, they really did truly make me feel better a little bit and get through it better. But nothing was going to really make me feel better other than knowing I could stay. I then messaged my dad and told him what was going on. And, you know, he was sorry and he couldn't believe it. But he was just like, wow, I'm so sorry. And he told my stepmom, who then messaged me. And she was like, you need to go to financial aid and ask them what you can do. And I was like, I didn't feel like it was going to do much. But I was like, okay. So I went to financial aid and I was like, hey, what options do I have? And basically they told me what specifically was missing from my FAFSA, which I had no idea what was actually missing from it. I just thought it just did. I genuinely thought that if you didn't turn it in on time, that was it. Like, I didn't know we were missing anything. I just thought it didn't get turned in at all. So she was like, yeah, you can still turn it in, but at this point, there's probably not going to be much money to give you. If anything. And so I didn't really feel hopeful from that. You know, it was like, well, there's a teeny tiny chance, and I was going to take it. Like, I messaged my mom and I was like, here's what they told me. And she jumped into action with getting that done. But I was pretty much told, like, there's probably not going to be any money left. So I didn't really feel that hopeful. I messaged my stepmom and I was like, this is what they told me. And she, out of nowhere, she was just like, I'm going to come up there in a few days and talk to them myself. And I was like, okay. Let me tell you, that was an interesting thing. So her and my dad did end up coming up to Towson and met with a financial aid counselor, and they live in Virginia. So I don't know how far of a drive it was, but I mean, it was probably an hour and a half to 2.5 hours, somewhere in that range. They drove here just for that counseling meeting. And it was definitely supportive. Like, to not have to try to understand everything by myself was really, I can't even explain it. It was very relaxing and, like, encouraging to have someone else to go through it with me and to, like, help me understand it was really nice, and I'm really happy that my stepmom wanted to support me in that way. And basically, so we talked to the first counselor, and they pretty much said the same thing, like, we need this one thing. We went to another counselor, and this person had said, if you turn in this one thing, you basically have a free ride here. And, like, I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, that can't be true. But whatever, this is what the counselor's telling me, so I'm gonna work on this. So I was told my mom everything, and they started getting things done. And then about a week later, I think, maybe a little less, it all had gone through, and the counselor was like, okay, so here's the money we're offering you. And it was less than half of what I needed. So I was like, I don't know what to do. I had a little mini freak out again because I was like, I don't have the money. And then she suggested a parent loan, which I also thought you could only get with FAFSA at a certain time. So, I told my mom about that, and I was like, I think this is our last option. And she was totally on board with it. She was like, oh my god, this is great. Like, I was so upset in a way because I didn't want my mom to say no, but I also, if she says yes, I still feel bad because she's doing all of this for me. But she really didn't make me feel bad about it, which was great. She was like, yeah, let's do this. Like, this is gonna work, and like, you're gonna graduate on time. This is great. And I was still nervous. Like, I was nervous about everything processing in time and everything like that. So I didn't want to get my hopes up yet, but it seemed to be looking up. And as of today, I still don't actually have the bill paid for, but it's pretty much in the works. The money has been posted. I think it's going to go through within the next probably 24 hours. I'm not scheduled anymore to have my classes canceled. That hold was lifted. And I talked to the counselor, and it turns out the thing that we hadn't turned in originally for FAFSA was because we were randomly selected for something. So that's the reason why it had all gone wrong, because we didn't, like, me and my parents, neither of us understood this extra thing that we had to do. And we didn't even know that we were doing an extra thing. Like, I genuinely just thought we just didn't do the FAFSA. So not only was there that, but then the counselor told me something about how we were selected late and how my hold got lifted even though my payment isn't paid yet because it's not my fault that we were selected late. I don't really know what that's about, but it seems like so much is making sense, and like so much of this wasn't necessarily just my fault. So I guess that's a little bit comforting. But anyway, I'm not scheduled to have my classes taken or dropped. And a lot of good things have happened. Not only has that happened, but yesterday I got offered a job that I applied for back in November. And then this morning, I also got into a class that I've basically been waitlisted for since November too. So a lot of great things are looking up, and classes start next week, and I think I'm going to be fine. Like, I think everything's going to be okay from now on. And it is so relieving. And I mean, definitely all of the stress and everything was 100% worth it, but I'm so happy to think that this is pretty much about to be over. I do really miss color guard, and I'm really sad that I had to quit, and I wish I didn't have to, and I'm gonna miss it. But overall, I'm just so glad that I get to stay in college, and I'm gonna graduate on time with 2 degrees. At the end of this, I have so many people to thank. My friends for supporting me and genuinely doing everything that they could to help me. Brendan for always being there for me, basically 24/7, always there to help calm me down when I start freaking out. And all the things he has done for me these past few weeks and this month and just our whole relationship are super appreciated, and he's aware of that, so I'm not going to go too into that. I want to thank my dad and my stepmom for supporting me when I felt like there was no hope left. Like, I genuinely felt hopeless, and my stepmom really kicked me into gear and really helped me figure this out and give me the support that I needed, so I really do thank them for that. But most importantly, I literally could not have done this without my mom. Her sacrifices do mean the world to me. I don't want this to be the part that I start crying at. Oh my god. Okay. Her sacrifices mean everything to me, and I genuinely could not be here if it wasn't for her. And I hope that someday I can repay her for it. Basically, I can't thank her enough. Really didn't want to cry. Really thought I was almost through the video and I thought I had gotten away without crying. I do have to say I'm quite nervous to post this because I didn't ask anybody. I didn't go around and ask people if they were okay with me talking about it. And I don't. It makes me nervous to post it, but I don't want to. I don't want to say completely I don't want to be censored because there obviously is a line, but I feel like the line has gotten pushed too much and I want to bring it back some. But there still is a line, and I didn't want to get talked out of doing this video, and I feel like I can't move on with this channel unless I talk about what happened. So I need to get this out there. So hopefully everyone takes it well. I'm nervous about how like you as viewers are going to take this. Like I really don't know how this is going to look from a viewer's point. And I really just rambled on for a long time. But it's now the new year. I hope that everyone has a great year. I hope everyone has a great semester, a great whatever you're doing. And I guess I will see you in the next video. So until tomorrow, remember to inspire others, do good things, and be happy.